After Fed RBI surprises with eye on inflation, key interest rates hiked. Hike in repo rate by 25 basis points to 7.5% keeps CRR unchanged at 4%. Market snap, 4-day rally on rate hike. Sensex loses 383 points. Nifty closes 103 points lower. Bank and realty stocks worst hit. Rupee closes at 62.23. Diwali bonanza for central government employees. Cabinet hikes DNS allowance of its employees by 10% to 90% of basic pay. The centre also extends stock holding limit on pulses, edible oil and oilseeds by a year to check prices. And Germany goes to election on Sunday. The campaign will decide who will be the continent's most powerful politician for next 4 years in full swing and decide the future of Eurozone. Hello and welcome to Doordarshan News. I am Sidhant Sibal and you're watching Business Wrap, your one-stop show to all the business news of the day. Now on to the top story. RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan today surprised the industry and shocked the stock markets by hiking the short-term policy rates by 0.25% to keep inflation under check. Announcing the first monetary policy review after taking over as the RBI Governor, Raghuram Rajan increased repo rate by 7.5% from 7.25% with immediate effect, while the reverse repo stands adjusted at 6.5%.
Raghuram Rajan announced his maiden monetary policy and surprised the bankers and the corporate sector. In a mid-quarter monetary policy review, Reserve Bank has hiked the key repo rate by 25 basis points, which now stands at 7.50%. Repo rate is the rate at which banks borrow money from the Reserve Bank of India. Meanwhile, the cash reserve ratio, or the amount of money banks have to park with the RBI, has been kept unchanged at 4%. RBI also reversed some of other rupee supporting steps. He relaxed the requirement that banks meet 99% of their CRR on a daily basis. Banks will now have to meet 95% of their CRR on a daily basis. RBI has also decreased the marginal standing facility by 75 basis points to 9.5%. Reduction in marginal standing facility will bring in marginal liquidity in the market.
Recognizing that inflationary pressures are mounting and determined to establish a nominal anchor which allows us to preserve the internal value of the rupee, we have raised the repo rate by 25 basis points. The intent here is that when the repo rate becomes the effective policy rate, it should be consistent with inflationary conditions in the economy. On net, these measures will reduce the cost of bank financing substantially while allowing us to take an appropriately precautionary stance on inflation.
RBI's rate hike has disappointed the banking industry and millions of consumers who are struggling under the burden of high EMIs. It would also dampen sentiments ahead of the peak festival season when banks expect demands for loans to go up. For an instance, if you had bought a house worth 30 lakh rupees at 10% interest for 15 years tenure, then with an increase of 0.25% in interest, your EMI will rise approximately by 500 rupees. The central bank's move to hike rates is aimed to rein in rising inflation. India's retail inflation is around the double-digit mark and headline inflation hit a 6-month high in August. Business Desk, DD News.
RBI Governor was confident of the current account deficit will be financed and the red lines won't be crossed.
We're fairly confident that we can finance this year's current account deficit without a substantial drawdown in reserves. In fact, the finance minister's math, which the RBI collaborated on, suggests that the CAD could come down to 70 billion and even below, and that the financial measures we put in place should raise more than that amount of money. Now, if all goes well, there will be an accretion to reserves.
On postponement of Federal Reserve's decision of American stimulus policy, Raghuram Rajan said postponement of tapering is only a postponement.
Is only that, a postponement. We must use this time to create a bulletproof national balance sheet and growth agenda which creates confidence in citizens and investors alike. I do think that short term, it has, in a sense, postponed some of the concerns. My sense is the markets were quite prepared for a moderate tapering. And what this has done is, in a sense, it has again created the possibility of uncertainty down the line.
Meanwhile, industry was quick to record its disappointment. It has been lobbying for a rate cut to provide a much-needed impetus to slowing growth. Industry body CII, or Confederation of Indian Industry, said the increase in repo rate could have been avoided as the industry is already reeling under pressures of high cost of capital and low availability in a tight liquidity situation. FICCI also expressed surprise at the RBI's move. The increase in repo rate by 25 basis points has come as a surprise to us. Meanwhile, the country's largest lender, the State Bank of India's chairman Pradeep Chaudhary, said that deposit rates and lending rates will go up post the RBI policy. State Bank of India, the country's largest lender, had yesterday raised its home loan rates to 10.10% from 9.95% earlier for loans up to 30 lakh rupees. Interest rates for loans above rupees 30 lakhs, which earlier stood at 10.10%, were also revised upwards. Now on to rupee. The rupee closed at 62.23 versus the US dollar, down 46 paise or 0.74%. The rupee had surged 161 paise to close at more than 1 month high of 61.77 rupees against the dollar in yesterday's trade. Now on to the markets. Raghuram Rajan neutralizes Bernanke effect on the market. After gaining more than 600 points yesterday, the BSE Sensex today crashed nearly 380 points. The day started on a cautious note, but immediately after the announcement of Raghuram Rajan's maiden RBI policy, it was a bloodbath. The fall was so drastic in the initial moments that Sensex lost nearly 500 points, though it recovered later. Sensex closed down 383 points at 20,264 levels, while Nifty closed down 103 points at 6,012 levels. Top losers on BSE were ICICI Bank, L&T, Sesa Goa, Hindustan Unilever, HDFC Bank, which were down by between 4 to 3%. Top gainers on the chart were GAIL India, Sun Pharma, Coal India, BHEL and Wipro, which were up by between 3 to 1%. Banking and realty sectors were the most hit on account of high borrowing cost. Onto global action. European stock markets rose on Friday with the indices extending multi-year highs reached the prior day when investors celebrated the US Federal Reserve's decision to keep its bond purchases intact. Key benchmark indices in UK, France and Germany were up by between 0.05% to 0.29%. Onto Asian markets, Asian stocks edged lower after their strong gains in the previous session. Key benchmark indices in Japan, Indonesia and Singapore were off by between 0.16% to 1.86%. Stock markets in mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan and South Korea were closed for the day. To discuss on the RBI's policy and the market action, we are joined by Lekha Chakrabarti, the professor economist from the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, and Himanshu Bhatt, senior journalist. Sir, welcome to Doordarshan News. Sir, let me start with you as a journalist point. Sir, on a Wednesday, the Fed surprised the markets. It was a positive surprise by not cutting the American stimulus. Today, there was another surprise, but a negative surprise. What is your first reaction to it?
So, first reaction is, a very good point that's been made by the RBI governor that he is not a rock star playing to the gallery. He's looking at the economy, the fundamentals, the inflationary expectations which he wants to control. So that's a very good thing. Overall, the way he started, the market euphoria and everything, so people thought that things will go the way industry wants. But he has pressed the reality button and said, look, inflation is high, and whatever the Fed did yesterday, and as the RBI governor said himself, this is a postponement. It's not that Fed will never start the tapering, which was a matter of concern. So the fact that inflation is going to be uppermost in the mind, for the past 2-3 years, whenever there's been a conflict between growth and inflation, the RBI, irrespective of the governor, has leaned towards inflation control. So he has continued that tradition.
So no Facebook likes for this governor, at least for now. So ma'am, coming to you, ma'am, tell me, how will it impact the common man today as of now? Will the banks pass on the buck to the common man?
Okay, let me begin by saying that what he has not played right now, maybe it will be more important than what he could have played right now. So in that sense, he has not induced that animal spirits, or he didn't encourage the animal spirits in the stock market. So maybe that is, as Himanshu rightly pointed out, that may be one of the good things that, he clearly gave a warning that I am not going to engage into, inducing speculative tendency or the animal spirits. But when it comes to the common man, of course, the investment, the growth aspects. So what he has focused is only the inflationary expectations, the price stability aspects. In that process, the growth story, he has not touched upon at all. And he has pushed that ball to the fiscal policy maker. So he's giving a clear indication that appropriate policy response from the fiscal policy maker is equally important.
So ma'am, do you think that dilemma, the growth versus inflation dilemma, is back? I mean, people thought when the new governor will take charge, that dilemma might just taper off.
No, because this is a very difficult story, because we have many priorities: growth, inflationary expectations, the current account deficit. Maybe that appropriate sole concern of the RBI to the price stability, to control the inflationary expectations. It was a proper step by raising the, at this moment. But of course, Raghuram Rajan has given the indication that it's not only the upward movement, the rates can go both directions. So, we are just waiting to see that. But this, he has not responded to Ben Bernanke's, interest rate policy by encouraging our internal economy by lowering the rates. That's a good thing.
So coming to you, he has reduced the marginal standing facility, but on the same breath, he has increased the repo rate. So in a sense that he is increasing liquidity on one side, but decreasing liquidity on another side. So it's like zero-sum game.
See, what is reduced is a step taken earlier, which was an emergency firefighting step. When rupee, there was an attack on the rupee in a sense. Now rupee is much more stable, and that step is not really required. The other step he has taken, which you say makes up a zero-sum game, that is seriously for inflation. And inflation is a much more serious concern than many people realize. We are in an era of high subsidy. Now, what subsidies do, they inject a lot of money into the system, which is not productively employed, but it just adds to demand and inflation. So that's a very important consideration he has to bear in mind. Today, there was a decision that said DA would be increased by 10%. Now, these are all pointing towards inflation, and the RBI governor has to make sure that he has to arrest these expectations and control inflation.
So hold on that thought. We'll be back, but time for a small break right now.
अगर सीमेंट जंग रोधक न हो तो जानलेवा हो सकता है।
श्री अल्ट्रा रेड ऑक्साइड, भारत का एकमात्र जंग रोधक सीमेंट।
दिन भर खेत में काम कर करके टूट जाता था, कभी जोड़ों में दर्द तो कभी सर दर्द। फिर एक दिन गांव में वैद्य जी आए, उन्होंने सुझाया नवरत्न तेल, कहा कि ये है 9 आयुर्वेदिक जड़ी बूटियों वाला। मैंने इसे शाम को बदन और सर पे लगाया और चमत्कार, बदन दर्द, सर दर्द, अनिद्रा और थकान से मिला पल भर में आराम।
ठंडा ठंडा कूल कूल। बिजनेस के लिए क्या अच्छा है, किसको फोन करना है, किसको पार्टनर बनाना है, ये सब जानते हैं, लेकिन जब सर्विस टैक्स की बात होती है तो बिल्कुल ही अनजान। क्या बात कर रहा है? हमें भी भरना है? अब भरना है कि नहीं भरना है, यही टाइम है पता लगाने का, क्योंकि अभी चल रहा है सर्विस टैक्स VCES। तो पता लगाइए और भरिए अपना सर्विस टैक्स बिना किसी इंटरेस्ट या पेनल्टी के। चाहे तो इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में भी भर सकते हैं आप। अब अनजान मत बनिए, सर्विस टैक्स भरें और एक नई शुरुआत करें।
VCES, सर्विस टैक्स भरिए, नई शुरुआत करिए।
पराठा या आयरन की नीली गोली, पहले क्या आता है? जो सही जवाब देगा वो ये पराठा जीतेगा। सोचो।
सर का ना सर घूम गया है।
टाइम ओवर। पहले आता है पराठा, फिर आयरन की गोली, यानी खाने के कम से कम 1 घंटे बाद लेना आयरन की गोली। तो अब जैम पराठा कौन खाएगा?
बनना है एकदम सॉलिड तो लो आयरन की एक नीली गोली हर हफ्ते, खाने के कम से कम 1 घंटे बाद। सरकारी स्कूलों और आंगनबाड़ी केंद्रों में निःशुल्क उपलब्ध। सॉलिड बनो इंडिया, भारत सरकार की पहल।
Welcome back from that short break. Sir, before the break, you told me that subsidy and inflation have played a spoil sport. As an economist, I'll be asking you this question: how much have they played a spoil sport?
Of course, this fiscal consolidation is an important thing, but it's not really the target that the things have to be at 3% of GDP. Our fiscal deficit, the path to that 3% is also equally important. There, Himanshu rightly pointed out our subsidy part. The fuel subsidy is growing more than 60% each points. So maybe the focusing on the fuel subsidy reforms is an important step when it comes to the fiscal consolidation or the fiscal deficit containment. So maybe it's not the monetary policy alone can do something about the growth.
But as an economist, do you think that the fiscal deficit level, the red lines which the finance minister has been talking about, will be able to achieve that?
Oh, it's a difficult question. But even if he's able to reach that, the path is equally a matter of concern. Because I don't say that fiscal deficit is all that bad when especially the economy is in the recession. So if it is by cutting the infrastructure investments, I don't know, it's going to have more detrimental impact on growth.
So what's your view of the economy? Do you think like the green shoots of the recovery, we have seen that the export numbers have been in double digit for 2 months. The IIP numbers are also in positive territory. It's only inflation which has been playing spoil sport. So do you think that the green shoots of recovery will become into a larger tree of growth?
Well, it will take time.
But how much time?
Well, that's really hard to guess. We've seen 2 consecutive months of good export growth. So that's very good. And there's a good chance that the 3rd month would also be good. It's also a matter of, how quickly the exporters get their money, the dollars, and convert them into rupees. If they have an expectation of a falling rupee, then they delay it further. So there are all kinds of things. I think a key thing which we have to watch out for is, as the economist was saying, fiscal discipline. And I think the RBI governor would like to see that also. You got state elections coming and then the general election coming. So if the monetary authority is convinced that the path to fiscal discipline is being adhered to, he will have a little more confidence in unwinding things a bit, untightening it a bit. Because otherwise, you have this problem. If you have inflationary expectations, now that in turn would lead to a further fall in the rupee if the inflation continues. And then that will again increase inflation because of the oils you import and other things you import. So he doesn't want to get into this vicious circle.
Talking about inflation, ma'am, inflation, it seemed, was a key concern this time around. Is it true to say that he was just focusing on how to control inflation, which ironically his predecessor was also doing, and the industry in a sense was not so happy about the fact that controlling inflation is somehow affecting the industry because the funds are running out?
Well said. Because inflation, that phenomena in India is not purely monetary. So changing the repo rates, how much we can control the inflation in India, it's a question, because the supply side factors, that fiscal route to inflation, it's a complicated, it's a dynamic
is it right to say
phenomenon.
it's a wrong medicine for the different disease?
Well, at this moment, what Raghuram Rajan was focusing on these inflationary pressures, maybe from the point of view of stabilizing the rupee. So he's not giving more speculative pressures on the rupee. So maybe but it's a difficult question to say.
Continue,
I was saying, see, monetary policy is one of the instruments which the system has.
Okay,
so I mean, to the extent you will use it, they would be inclined to use it.
Okay, so but more or less it has actually not worked too much. I mean, in a sense, yes, inflation came down, but in the press release itself today, he said that WPI inflation eased in first quarter of the financial year, but again it's rising.
Yeah, I mean, the last data that came, it was, I think, at a 6-month high or something.
Yeah,
so it is a concern. And also, the supply side response is important. And, one factor which one should not ignore is that there's a long period of time when there were not many clearances, not much policy action. Say for a couple of years that went on. And what kind of bailed out India was that at the same time, US was taking very strong steps to look after its own economy, its bond buying program and asset buying program. Now, so that in effect propped up the Indian economy and the Indian rupee for some time. Now there's a limit how long you can depend on that. So we've come to that kind of a vulnerability, and therefore the RBI governor, I think, is correct in saying that he has to look at the internal factors. because finally it is your internal fiscal deficit and various parameters which should determine the policy.
Ma'am, last question to both of you. The question is, he talked about creating a bulletproof national balance sheet. How successful will he be?
It's based on the policy coordination. Because monetary policy independence is his dream. I don't know within our fiscal policy setup how he will be able to move it in that step, the independence of the central bank policy. But if it's a policy coordination between the fiscal policy maker and the monetary policy maker, here the question is who will be given the first mover advantage. So if the coordination is perfect and the policy response is perfect, then the balance sheet will be neat. But monetary policy alone cannot do wonders, especially in the context of India.
So last word to you on this question.
Well, see, there have been a series of very good policy initiatives for the last 6-8 months or almost a year since this current finance minister took charge. And there's a lag effect of that. Already we've seen in today's papers a major foreign investment proposal in the airline space. There are other things. So there's a good chance all this will catch up. But what is most important is there should never be a sense of complacency which was kind of creeping in the moment rupee came back from close to 68 to low down. So the government needs to keep its belt fastened, and the moment you have a sense of complacency that okay, now things are done, that's trouble, I think.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, ma'am. Now time for another short break. After that, the major decisions of the cabinet.
इस फिल्म का सुपरस्टार मैं हूँ। जब मैं अपनी ड्रीम नियो पर निकल पड़ता हूँ तो इसकी दमदार पावर, ये मस्त लंबी सीट, टनाटन ट्यूबलेस टायर्स, जबरदस्त शॉकर्स और ये कमाल माइलेज के साथ लगता है कि ये सब बस छोटे मोटे विलन हैं। ड्रीम नियो, बनो अपनी फिल्म का सुपरस्टार।
साथी चाहे कुछ भी कहे, जो कॉन्डम का साथ न छोड़े वही है मुकद्दर का सिकंदर।
Welcome back. It was a Diwali bonanza for central government employees. Good news for central government employees. The centre today announced a hike in DNS allowance by 10% to 90% from existing 80%. The move that would benefit about 50 lakh central government employees and 30 lakh pensioners. More such cabinet decisions in this report.
To help in curbing price rise, Cabinet on Friday extended the validity of powers vested in state governments under Essential Commodities Act. This would enable state governments to continue to take effective de-hoarding operations under the Essential Commodities Act 1955 by fixing stock limits and licensing requirements, among others, in respect of pulses, edible oils and edible oil seeds. Central government employees will get additional dearness allowance at the rate of 10%, a decision which would affect 50 lakh employees and 30 lakh pensioners. The Cabinet approved the new rate on Friday, which will be effective from July 1, 2013. The increase in DA to 90% would result in additional annual expenditure of 10,879 crore rupees.
The central government employees as well as the pensioners are entitled for DA/DR at the rate of 90% of the basic with effect from 1st July 2013.
The Union Cabinet also approved the setting up of a greenfield refinery cum petrochemical complex in Barmer district in Rajasthan with an estimated cost of over 37,000 crore rupees.
The Union Cabinet also accorded approval to the setting up of a 9 MMTPA greenfield refinery cum petrochemical complex in Barmer district of Rajasthan by the Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited as a joint venture with the government of Rajasthan.
In a major fillip to IT and hardware manufacturing in the country, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved setting up of Information Technology Investment Region near Hyderabad. The total investment for this region would be about 2.19 lakh crore rupees. The Cabinet also approved the extension of the National Food Security Mission for current financial year to help increase the farm productivity. With Rishi Kumar, Ajay Mishra's report, DD News.
On to some international news. Germany goes to poll on Sunday. The poll could decide whether Chancellor Angela Merkel could get a third term or not. But it's just not the Germans who will be closely watching the polls, but the rest of Europe. Remember, Germany is the biggest economy in the European continent and has been playing a key role in formation of the much talked about banking union and strengthening of the Eurozone. Mrs. Merkel's re-election would ensure stability at the center of EU. Nearly a quarter of a century since German reunification and a decade after shake-up of the welfare state, the German people's angst about their economy is fading, being replaced by a more confident and contented land that is less shy about triumphing its successes. With just days to go before Europe's largest economy goes to the polls, Germans are now less worried about their jobs than they have been in years. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who is running for the third term in the office, has used the strength of the German economy to her advantage. Analysts believe that Merkel has to keep Germans happy.
There's two legacies to keep in mind. The one would be the savior of the Eurozone, but also, you know, the protector of German taxpayers' money.
But the outcome of the vote affects the future of Eurozone. Germany has been central to Europe's response to a debt crisis that began in Greece in 2009. Many believe that Merkel's Christian Democrats won't win enough votes. A grand coalition with the main opposition, SPD, is another possibility, something that might lead to a government which is more sympathetic to the woes of countries like Greece.
What decisions have been delayed until these polls are out of the way? And there are several we can think of, in particular Greece, how you find new finance for Greece.
Even if the Sunday's vote lead to little change in Germany's parliament, the Bundestag, the rest of the Eurozone will be watching for any signs of the change in direction from Berlin. If she secures her third and possibly her final term as the Chancellor, some wonder if Angela Merkel might start looking towards her legacy and if that might lead to softening of her stand on austerity. Business Desk, DD News. Time for the repeat headlines. After the Fed, RBI surprises with eye on inflation, hikes key interest rates. Hike repo rate by 25 basis points to 7.5%. Keeps CRR unchanged at 4%. Markets snap 4-day rally on rate hike. Sensex loses 383 points. Nifty closes 103 points down. Banking and realty sector stocks worst hit. Rupee closes at 62.23. Diwali bonanza for central government employees. Cabinet hikes DNS allowance of its employees by 10% to 90% of basic pay. The centre also extends stock holding limit on pulses, edible oil and oilseeds by a year to check prices. And Germany goes to election on Sunday. The campaign will decide who will be the continent's most powerful politician for next 4 years in full swing and decide the future of Eurozone. That's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.